For the rest of the world, I'm probably a villain. But if you ask me, I was just a father. It started on a quiet Friday evening. My 2 kids were supposed to go to their mom's place for the weekend. We had split custody after the divorce, so this was normal. But that day was different. They stood near the door, backpacks on, unusually quiet. Then my son looked at me and said something I'd never heard before. "Dad, we don't want to go to Mom's house anymore." I immediately knelt down so I was at their level. "Hey, what's going on?" I asked softly. "Did your mom say something to you?" They looked at each other. My daughter's eyes filled with tears. Then they told me about their mom's new boyfriend. Apparently, whenever their mom wasn't around, he would call them into the living room. He'd set up a camera and tell them to stand in front of it and strip down to their underwear. Then he'd take pictures. Afterward, he'd give them candy and tell them to go play. And he always said the same thing. "Don't tell anyone. This is our little secret." At first, my kids thought it was weird, but harmless. Free candy for a few pictures, right? But eventually, they started feeling uncomfortable. One day, they asked him to stop. That's when he slapped my daughter across the face. They ran to their mom crying and told her everything. But instead of protecting them, she accused them of lying. She told them they were just jealous of her new relationship. She even believed I had coached them to make up the story. When my kids finished telling me all of this, my chest felt like it was collapsing. The first thing I did was call the police. But the person who showed up wasn't just any officer, it was my ex-wife's brother-in-law, a deputy. He listened to my story with a bored expression. Then he shook his head. "Stop being jealous," he said, "and stop making disgusting accusations because you can't move on." I stood there in disbelief. My kids were crying, my daughter still had the mark on her cheek, and the cop just walked away. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I sent my kids to stay with my parents for the night. Then I made a phone call. At my local bar, I had become friends with 2 guys who had, let's say, questionable pasts. But they respected one thing above everything else: kids. When I told them what happened, they didn't hesitate. The plan was simple. We waited until my ex left for work the next morning. Then we slipped into the house. Just like I expected, the boyfriend was there, unemployed, sitting in his room. The moment he saw us walk in, his face went pale. He tried to scream, but we shoved a cloth into his mouth before he could make a sound. My plan wasn't murder. I just wanted to find the photos, delete them, and scare him enough so he'd never come near my kids again. But then he started talking. And what he confessed made my blood run cold. Those pictures weren't just for him. He had a whole list of buyers, a line of sick people paying top dollar for photos like that. He had multiple copies of each photo ready to ship out in a few days. If my kids hadn't told me, those pictures would already be out there, forever. And in that moment, something inside me broke. My vision turned red. I barely remember what happened next. All I know is that I had iron knuckles on my hand, and I didn't stop swinging. Not until my friends dragged me off him. The room went silent. I looked at what I had done, and realized something. If I went to prison, my kids would go right back to my ex. And who knows what kind of monster she'd bring into their lives next. I collapsed on the wooden floor and started crying. That's when one of my friends said something to the other. "Take him home," he said. Then he looked down at the body, and shrugged. "Prison life suits me better anyway." For a second, I forgot everything I knew about his criminal past. I just looked at him, and nodded with respect. Because that day, the world might have seen a villain. But my kids? They finally slept safely.